Forget about years ahead of his time. That's a gross understatement about the person I want to talk about today. Pharaoh Akhenaten was millennia ahead of his time. Buckle up for a story about an ancient Egyptian ruler who dared to challenge the very gods his people worshipped. Hi, my name is Sebastian. You're watching Mistakes That Changed the World. Imagine a world where monotheism, the belief in one single god, took root 1,000 years before the Bible was even written. That's exactly what Pharaoh Akhenaten tried to pull off, but let's just say it didn't go smoothly. You see, back then, pharaohs were considered living gods, so for Akhenaten to try and overthrow a whole pantheon of deities, well, that was some serious blasphemy. It's like the head cheerleader suddenly declaring cheerleading a giant waste of time. That's pretty much the definition of shaking things up. But despite the crazy odds, Akhenaten almost managed to bury the old gods of Egypt and usher in a new era of monotheism. His zeal, however, got a little out of hand and it almost brought down an entire civilization. When Akhenaten took the throne around 1350 BC, he inherited a sweet deal. His dad, Amenhotep III, had built a vast empire, smoothed things over with the neighboring countries, and ushered in a golden age of peace and prosperity. It was a time of calm seas and full treasuries. This happy era also influenced the worship of Amun-Ra, the king of Egyptian gods. He was basically their fertility dude, the one who kept the crops growing and the Nile River flowing, and let's be honest, happy bellies make for happy people. But here's the rub. Amun-Ra's popularity wasn't just good for the god's ego, it also made his priests super powerful. They were controlling a huge chunk of Egypt's wealth, about a third of the whole economy. Basically, these priests were rolling in dough and their influence was starting to rival the pharaoh himself. It seems like Amenhotep III saw this power struggle brewing, so he started showing more interest in a different god, Aten. Aten was all about that big round sun disk in the sky, a simpler kind of deity. Maybe Amenhotep was hoping people would switch favorites and weaken the hold of those rich Amun-Ra priests. Whatever his plan, he died before it could play out. That's where Akhenaten comes in. When he took the throne in 1353 BC, he became Amenhotep IV, a name meaning Amun is satisfied. That wouldn't last long. The new pharaoh was about to shake things up in a major way, and ancient Egypt would never be the same again. Alright, so Amenhotep IV takes the throne and wastes no time making his mark. The first sign of trouble: art. Egyptian art had always been super stylized and symbolic, but under this new pharaoh, things got real, literally. Suddenly, royal portraits became shockingly realistic. We're talking pudgy bellies, elongated torsos, and the whole family cuddling and smooching it up. His wife Nefertiti was even portrayed as his equal, something truly unheard of. Now, this might seem like a minor detail to us folks in the age of reality TV and oversharing presidents, but for ancient Egypt, it was a scandal of epic proportions. It was like the pharaoh was live tweeting his family's most private moments, and that was an absolute vulgarity. This change of artistic style was just the opening act. Akhenaten wasn't messing around. By the 5th year of his reign, he rebranded himself as Akhenaten, which meant something like effective or useful for Aten. This was nothing less than a giant middle finger to the priests of Amun-Ra. Then, he started shutting down their temples, cutting off their sweet money flow. Remember, these priests were used to being super wealthy and influential, and Akhenaten was basically squeezing them out. But it gets more intense. The priests claimed they were the only ones who could chat with Amun-Ra, but Akhenaten declared himself the son of Aten with a direct line to the big guy upstairs. And he didn't stop there. He threw the whole pantheon of Egyptian gods out the window and declared Aten the one and only true deity. It's hard to put ourselves in the minds of those Egyptians from thousands of years ago, but you could try and imagine the American Congress passing a law that would ban people from watching TV, for instance. Worshipping the gods wasn't just a religious act, it was an integral and necessary part of life and death, so banning all the gods was probably the most radical thing a pharaoh could do. Akhenaten still wasn't done shaking things up. He knew the priests of Amun still held power in the capital, Thebes, so he made yet another power move. He built a whole new capital city in the middle of the desert. This wasn't gonna be just any desert city though. It was Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, which translates to Horizon of the Sun, basically Sun City. Tens of thousands of people were forced to pack up their lives and move to the scorching sands. Construction crews worked tirelessly, throwing up palaces, lakes, and of course a giant temple dedicated to Aten. Akhenaten poured the country's resources into this new city, like a pharaoh obsessed with Instagram and his follower count. But in his desert daydream, he started neglecting the crucial diplomatic ties his father had built with neighboring countries. Who needs international relations anyway when you've got your own city named after the sun? As you can imagine, things eventually took a dark turn. Around year 12 of Akhenaten's reign, his queen, the stunning and famous Nefertiti, mysteriously vanishes from the historical record. Nobody knows exactly what happened, and theories are still being developed as new evidence is being found. Her story is fascinating on its own, but that's a subject for another time. What we do know for sure is that Akhenaten declared full-on war against Amun-Ra and his priests. He became obsessed with erasing any trace of the old god. He even went so far as to chisel Amun's name out of his own father's name. His sole focus became destroying everything related to Amun, but in the process, he totally neglected the needs of his people. Egypt, once a thriving empire, started to crumble. The public blamed Akhenaten for angering the gods, and whispers of Amun-Ra's revenge spread like wildfire. Then, in 1336 BC, Akhenaten died. His successor, a 9-year-old boy named Tutankhaten. The people wasted no time. They abandoned the unfinished desert city and flocked back to Thebes. Akhenaten's attempt to rewrite history was over. But the story doesn't end there. The legacy of the pharaoh who dared to defy the gods is still being debated today. With Akhenaten gone, the priests of Amun-Ra saw their chance for a comeback. They swooped in on the new young pharaoh, who was probably easy pickings. These guys were more than priests, they were political puppeteers, and little Tut became their marionette. They convinced him to change his name to something a little more familiar to our ears, Tutankhamun, the worshipper of Amun. Then, under their helpful guidance, Tutankhamun declared his own father, Akhenaten, the bad guy responsible for all of Egypt's problems. Akhenaten was labeled a heretic, his image and his queens were destroyed, and Akhetaten, the desert city, was reduced to rubble. Aten, the once powerful sun god, was demoted back to minor league status. Akhenaten's name was practically erased from history, as if he never existed. The priests of Amun-Ra had successfully rewritten history, until the 19th century, when archaeologists rediscovered the old capital city of the lost pharaoh. So, what can we learn from Akhenaten's failed attempt to create a monotheistic religion? Well, for starters, shoving your beliefs down people's throats is a recipe for disaster. Akhenaten's all-or-nothing approach totally backfired, and perhaps a more subtle, gradual approach might have had a different outcome. Interestingly, over 1,000 years later, another monotheistic religion emerged, Christianity. Unlike Akhenaten's top-down approach, Christianity started as a grassroots movement, gaining strength from the people themselves. It faced huge resistance too, but its story ended much differently. It's also interesting to note that scholars believe the first chapter of the Bible, the book of Genesis, was written down around the year 1400 BC. However, hold your horses, there is no evidence to suggest any link between Akhenaten's monotheistic religion and the dawn of the Abrahamic faiths that rule the world today. Akhenaten's dream of a monotheistic religion died with him, but his story didn't end. Well, the truth is, we only know about Akhenaten because of a lucky break in archaeology. His desert city, Akhetaten, was built with these special stones called talatat. They were smaller and easier to move than giant pyramid blocks, but that also made them easier to destroy. When Akhetaten was abandoned, the stones were basically recycled. They ended up in the walls of Thebes, like tiny historical messages hidden in plain sight. By studying these stones, archaeologists have been able to piece together Akhenaten's reign better than almost any other pharaoh. But the stones weren't the only clue. Remember Akhenaten's son, the young pharaoh Tutankhamun? In 1922, his tomb was famously discovered, filled with incredible treasures. And among all that gold and glory, there was an image of Tutankhamun and his wife, basking in the rays of the sun god, Aten. Sometimes, the greatest stories are hidden in plain sight. Akhenaten's story remains a fascinating reminder that even the most powerful leaders can't control everything, especially when it comes to faith. His dream of a unified religion died with him, but it leaves us with a big question. Was he a visionary genius or a power-hungry heretic? Let me know what you think in the comments downstairs. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the lost and forgotten chapters of history. If you like what you saw, perhaps you might want to visit my Patreon page. I do want to thank my long-standing patrons Dan and Lawrence Neal for being my fans for years now. In the meantime, I do hope to see you next time. Bye.